Okay, welcome back, everybody. So we have a brand new podcast episode today. This is Inside Look, South Jersey Girls Basketball, and today I have a special guest. I have Coach Casey Heitman. She's the head coach of Clearview High School Girls Basketball, and I'm going to welcome her here to the program. How you doing, Coach?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you as a guest, and I'm really excited to talk about, the history, your coaching history, and even just to have a season wrap-up. I know you had a great, successful season, and you've been doing really well as a coach there at Clearview. So I want to get started. So why don't you talk about where you grew up?
So I grew up in Mantua. I went to Clearview. I graduated 2003 at Clearview. I played soccer for 1 year. That was more of like they saw me playing basketball and were like, oh, she looks strong. Like she could kick a soccer ball type of thing. So it wasn't really my sport. But I played basketball and softball for 4 years at Clearview. And it's awesome to be back coaching at my alma mater. It's a cool feeling.
Yeah, that's a great honor. So tell us a little bit about like Mantua, Mullica Hill area. So what's the area like for the listeners that might be from out of town?
I guess I would say it's pretty, Mullica Hill, there's a lot of farms. But it's a nice area to live. Mullica Hill has their little downtown main street with all the little shops. And Mantua is just right down the street. So it's a nice area to be in. Great school districts for elementary and Clearview too. So it's a nice area.
Yeah, one of my favorite things is going to the Amish market.
Oh my gosh.
Their food is like amazing. Unbelievable. The donuts and
the breakfast. Oh my God.
Is it still open with COVID and everything?
It is. They're only open certain days. I can never remember what. I have to look it up. But it is definitely a spot to check out for sure.
When I was growing up, Mullica Hill was known for being like a place to go antique shopping. I don't know if it still is, but my parents used to do that when I was little.
They do still have antique shops, but there's a lot more on Main Street now than just antique shops. There's all kinds of little boutiques and different. There's like a sewing place where kids can like go and do sewing activities. There's an art studio. There's a couple restaurants down there. So it's developed into a little bit more than just an antique place.
So has the town changed a lot since you grew up in the town? Has it, I guess, expanded more and grown more in that time?
I guess, yeah, I've seen some growth in that time, some more developments going up since when I was in the area going to school then.
Wow. So you graduate from Clearview, and then what was your next step?
So I went to King's College in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and I majored in elementary education. Started out as a math major. I really love math, but I had a logic and axiomatics class that was just a little too much for me and turned me away from the math major, but ended up being an elementary major and played basketball there too for 4 years.
Okay. So what made you become a teacher?
I think growing up, that was always just one of the things that I wanted to do. It was either going to be that or a vet. And, my mom was a teacher, and I just feel like I grew up with a lot of really great teachers, and I liked the impact that they had on me. And growing up, looking up to teachers and having just some admiration for them, and just wanted to be able to have that type of impact on kids. I also knew that if I was a teacher, that would make coaching a possibility too. The hours are a little easier than, a regular 9-to-5 job, that it's a little harder to get to the games and practices and things.
So, when you were searching for colleges, what made you choose King's College?
It was a small school, and I liked that. I was very, very quiet and shy in high school. I'm still not the most outgoing person, but I feel like I grew by going away to a school, not being able to come home every weekend. So it was a good 2.5-hour ride. So far enough away, but not too far away. It's a Catholic school, so I liked that aspect of it too. And they were competitive with basketball. So that was also, something that was exciting about it.
What was it like living in Wilkes-Barre? Did you like the town? I know it's kind of like more quiet and rural. I used to go that area a lot.
Yeah. It was okay. It was okay. You know, in college, you don't really leave the campus all that much, to be honest. There's not a ton going on in Wilkes-Barre. So it was a lot of stuff on campus, and playing a sport in college keeps you busy. You know, you really have to structure your time and get your classwork done and then all your workouts and everything too. So definitely a lot of time on campus.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad that, you had a great experience and you're able to become a teacher. So, now you fast forward here and now you're a coach. So how did you get into coaching?
So when I graduated from King's, I came home and I applied at the school that my mom was teaching at, which was West Deptford. And I was hired as an instructional aide. And they already had a basketball coach, but I volunteered with the middle school team. So I was hired at the middle school and volunteered as the middle school, like just a volunteer coach. And then I kind of worked my way up at West Deptford. I did the volunteer thing for a year or two. And then it was actually one of the players that we coached at the middle school level. When his daughter got to the high school, he ended up becoming the head coach. And he reached out to me and asked me to help out as the JV coach there. And then a few years later, he retired from coaching. Well, I shouldn't say he retired. He now coaches the boys at West Deptford, Jay McEwen. And I took over the head coaching program there. And then I had an opportunity to come back to Clearview. And, that I couldn't pass that up. It's just something special about coaching in the town or the school that you grew up in. So I coached the freshman team for 2 years under Neil Bress as the head coach. And then when he stepped down, I took over the varsity program. And I've been doing that this is my 4th year.
Wow, that's great. So, being at West Deptford and then that opportunity, presents itself. That's a great opportunity. How was that in the plans for you from the very beginning when you graduated? Like, oh, I just can't wait till I have an opportunity to come to Clearview, or did it just pop up?
So one of the girls that I played basketball with in high school, Crystal Gravenese, went to Lycoming College, and we played against each other in college. And then she was the JV coach under Neil Bress. And we always said how cool it would be to for the two of us to coach together, back at Clearview again. So I wouldn't say it was in the plans, but it worked out great, So she's been the JV coach for me for the past 4 years. This year we actually had an additional coach. We didn't have enough players for a freshman team, so our freshman coach was able to stay with us this year. And this was actually a fill-in freshman coach because our freshman coach had trouble with childcare for the school year. With everything with COVID, it's been tough. So we had Megan Rulon, who's another Clearview grad, help us out this year. So it was neat for the three of us to coach together at the school that we went to and played together for. So
when you're actually coaching and you're with the girls, do you ever just talk about old stories or old memories from when you played there?
All the time. Crystal's mom, when we were growing up, was really into scrapbooking. So she has scrapbooks from every year that we played with newspaper cutouts. And it's funny because we don't get that many actual newspaper articles anymore, but that was all we had then. And so she's got all these newspaper cutouts, pictures from our pasta parties, when we would have them. And so Crystal will bring them when we have pasta parties. Obviously we didn't this year, but in past years, she'll bring the scrapbooks so the girls can look at them and laugh at us and our what we looked like when we were 16. But it's neat. I think it's neat for the girls to see that and understand that we know what it's like at Clearview. It's the history behind it. I think that's neat for them to see it.
So what are some of your great memories from when you were a player at Clearview?
I honestly, I'm so terrible at remembering certain games that were won and things like that. What really, sticks with me is the relationships from playing sports in high school and college. I'm still friends with the girls that I played with in high school, and that to me, it's so special, you know, like that I think, and that's what I try to impress on the girls is that, you know, these are friends that you're going to have for a lifetime, hopefully. And that's what I enjoyed most about high school sports, I think.
That's pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
you know, thinking about Clearview or talking about Clearview, so what towns actually send to the high school?
So Harrison Township is Mullica Hill, and then Mantua Township send to Clearview. So go ahead, sorry.
No. And so if those are the two towns, how much interaction is there between the two, like the kids with sports? I mean, did you guys like grow up together, or did you play against each other in a lot of sports?
Like the two towns as I was growing up, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So I feel like when I was growing up, it was more split, like Harrison and Mantua, and it was like the rivalry until you came to Clearview, and then obviously you were teammates, you know. I feel like now it's a little more intertwined. You know, there's a Harrison Youth League team and a CYB team, which is Mantua, but the players can be from either town, you know, so it's not as separated, which I think is good. Like, I think it's good for the kids to play together when they're young. Like, why not? You know, you're going to play together in middle school, high school, get them together early.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it's just nice to see that you're back there. And, you know, a lot of the things that you remember as a kid, you're bringing into your program.
Yeah.
And as the relationships, to me, I think, you know, that seems to be the common thread of a lot of the coaches that coach, is they just love the relationships that they build with the kids and their families. And to see the kids become teammates and lifelong friends, I think it's really special to the coaches. And I think from a teacher's perspective, you just love having those kids, you know, see, even if they see you in the supermarket or Walmart, you know, and then they bring up like a fun story or a fun memory, maybe something you might not have remembered, you know, I think it can bring a smile to your face, and it makes it worth it for sure.
Agree.
So why don't you talk about, you being a head coach and, you know, what your influences are like. So how did, you know, when you become the head coach over here at Clearview, you know, you're basically starting, you know, I would say, assume almost from scratch in my mind, because you're bringing your program, your system over. You know, what was it like in the beginning days?
Well, I think I was influenced by a lot of different coaches. You know, in high school, I played for two different coaches. I played for Phil Stump my first 2 years, and then Janine Delaney my second 2 years. And then I also had two different coaches in college. So I feel like I was really exposed to lots of different styles, different methods. You know, I loved coaching with Jay McEwen at West Deptford. I felt like I learned a lot from him too. And I love learning from other coaches. Like if I could go and watch a practice by like one of our coaches locally, I would do it in a heartbeat, like just to learn from what their strategies are, what's a good drill, how do they interact, how do they get the best out of their girls. Like, I really enjoy learning about coaching too. So I feel like I was able to pull all of the good things that I liked from all the coaches that I've seen. And my goal is to, you know, put it together in a program that works best for us, our girls, and the coaches at Clearview.
Okay, so what do you would consider is your like coaching philosophy? So tell us a little bit about, like, you know, what you do in your program.
So I will say, when I saw this question, I had flashbacks to college when I had to write my teaching philosophy that was like 7 pages long. But I mean, for coaching, I want the girls to be the best version of themselves that they can. I want them to grow and learn every day. I think, you know, that was kind of a motto for us this year, was like, you know, how are we getting better today? What did you improve on today? And I just want to create an atmosphere where they want to learn. It's not just about coming and going through the motions. You know, they want to learn. They're asking questions. They're comfortable to ask questions. You know, I've been around coaches where I was afraid to say the wrong thing or ask a question, you know, and I don't ever want that to be the case with our team. I want the girls to genuinely be learning every day. And I think a lot of that is influenced by the fact that I'm a teacher too. So, you know, it's a place for them to learn and get better and learn life lessons too, not just, you know, how to set a good pick and roll, or, you know, like, I want them to learn the life lessons of working through difficult things and, working for something, that things aren't just given to you. Being on time is a big one for me. Like just little things like that, respect for everybody, for your parents, for the refs, for the opposing team, teaching them interview skills. Like that was something we talked about this year. We had our freshman, Anna Pilecki, got interviewed for the first time. And before she went to the reporter, she was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I was like, coaching them and giving them some tips for that, like, which I think will translate into job interviews down the road. I think basketball, playing team sports in general is about so much more than the sport itself, so I want to have a program that the girls enjoy being a part of and want to work hard every day.
That's great. You said about being on time. So are you the type of person that's, early, right on time, a couple minutes late? I mean, personally?
I'm early. Anywhere I have to be, I'm going to be at least 5 or 10 minutes early. Otherwise I'd be stressing out the whole way there. And I don't want to make people wait. That was something that my parents taught me growing up, that be respectful of people's time. Yeah. And I think that's important for kids to know about jobs, teachers, anybody in the future.
Yeah, I think it's cool that you brought that up because, one of the things I noticed is that when you're early, you have time to prepare, you have time to relax, you have time to kind of like get yourself set. And I noticed that when the kids come like right on time, they're just rushing, they're just throwing the bag down, they're trying to get the shoes on, they're trying to get the equipment going. And then it kind of like sets a tone for like the rest of the day. And I think when you're late, you get flustered. You just feel like, everything's off. So I think, just in preparation for life and for sports, teaching them how to be early is a really good lesson. And I think a lot of people don't think about that. But really, to me, I mean, I think it sets the tone for the day and it just helps to get them in the right mindset. Plus, you can talk about things, when you're running late. I mean, how many times you go, oh my gosh, I never went over that with the kids, or I never talked about this with the coaches. And now here's the situation and we didn't go over it. And now we're dealing with this, and we're just trying to adjust. So I think that's great. And the other thing I like you talk about was responsibility. Teaching the kids to be responsible. I mean, like you said, these are life lessons, and it seems like you're really preparing your players for life. So, how would you describe your coaching style?
I would say I'm not much of a yell. I don't yell at the girls. I would say, I'm not yelling, maybe directions to them, but I don't like open criticism. I don't think, if you're saying something, it needs to be helpful for them, something that they can make an adjustment and then do on the court. But at the same time, I'm also that coach that's cheering the whole time. You know what I mean? And I do like to talk to them a lot. I love when we have defense right in front of me on the court. Like I think defense is something that we take pride in as a team. And especially as a young team, we're learning the different positions that we need to be in for help defense. And so I like to be calling it out and talking to them. I know some coaches don't, but I also take different approaches at different times. So I like my point guard to be able to call some plays on their own. I think that's important for them to learn and develop. And, if I want a certain play, I'll call that out. But for the most part, they know the plays, they know what defense the team is in, and I'm going to let them make a call unless I have a different feeling about it, So I think it's a little bit of both.
That's great. I like that, giving the kids a little bit of freedom and allowing them to kind of like make the in-the-game decisions. And then when the game gets close, kind of rally them and help them to prepare to win.
Right.
So why don't we talk a little bit about, the program history? So, what was it like, when you were there and going forward, taking over as coach?
So when I was there, when I was younger, we were not younger, when I was a freshman, sophomore, we were a pretty solid team. We had Katie Shirley was there. She was 1,000-point scorer. She tore her ACL, both ACLs. So she was out one time, tore her ACL, came back. tore ACL, and still managed to score her 1,000 points. And she was like, when I think of a post player, like a strong post player, that is who I picture every time. She was just so strong, and just the strong, one of the strongest post players I've ever played with. So she was there when I was there. She scored over, I think it was like 1,700 points. And then, I mean, after that, obviously I went to college for a little while, I was out for a while, but then coming back when I was since I've been coaching there, we've had Elena Hansen. She was my first year as head coach. She scored 1,000 points as a post player, kind of reminded me of Katie, very strong inside, true post player. But, as far as like past history, we have our gym that we play in is called the Hank, which is named after Lorraine Hank Ledden. She played in the 1950s and is still like one of the top scorers in Gloucester County. She was definitely a pioneer for women's sports for the time. And I think it's great that we had the gym named after her. It reminds the girls, to what we're working for, what we're playing for, to be happy that you're able to do this and play sports. And,
That's pretty exciting that the gym is named after a woman, because I mean, in this day and age, it seems like every gym that's renamed is named after, a head coach on the boys side or a man. So, I mean, to me, that's very impressive. And I think that's kind of something that, the girls can look forward to and say, hey, you know what, this woman did it, now it's our turn. So like you said, she paved the way, which is, fantastic. So let's move on and talk about, last year, since that was like the last full year of, I would call it real basketball.
Yeah.
This was like, to me, this was like a swan song for the girls, like a last hurrah for the seniors. I think they gave the 15 games, in my opinion, just to give the seniors a way to, go out and play some last couple of games with their team. But it wasn't like, it's not what things are normally. So let's talk about last year. So, going into the season last year, what were some of your goals and expectations? Because you had some really key players and your team was really positioned to do well.
Yeah, we had Bella Steidel coming back, which was a huge player for us, Division I basketball player. She's playing at Loyola, Maryland now. And we had Libby Marquet, which was our point guard. So, well, actually, I should say she wasn't our point guard. She was a shooting guard the season before. She actually led our team in 3-pointers the year before. And then I told her, I was like, listen, you're a senior. We need a point guard. And she jumped right into the role. So that was, it was good to see, because she, sometimes you think kids just want to score points, and she, like I said, she led the team in threes the year before, and then stepped into it as a point guard, and obviously didn't do that. It was more of a feeding it to Bella and our other guards, and, and then we also had a very strong freshman class last year. We had Aaron Battle, Cassidy Thompson, Emma Steidel, as well as some other girls that played key roles, along the way. But we had high goals for ourselves. I think we knew we were talented. It was just a matter of if we were all going to be able to come and gel together as a team. So I think, to me, that was one of our biggest accomplishments, was coming together for as young as we were. We started 3 freshmen. We started 3 freshmen and 2 seniors last year. And we ended the season with a 22-5 record, with 2 of the losses happening when one of our key players was hurt. So I'm proud of the girls for last year and coming together like they did. We played the SJIBT tournament, was awesome last year. We made it to the championship game, which was the first time that's ever happened. I think the Final Four game was my favorite game of the season, probably. That was against Bishop Eustace. And everything was going right. It was just one of those games where everything was going right. We had like 5 players make a 3-pointer in the game, which is not typical for us, and it was all cylinders were firing. It was a cool experience. Probably my favorite game of the year.
So, you mentioned the SJBIT. Now, does your team typically play in that every year?
Since I've been coaching, we have, and I think previously they were also. Yeah, so we just never made it that far.
Oh, that's fantastic. Actually, I was at those games just because we just love basketball, and it's close
Great
by.
environment.
But for the people that are out there listening, can you describe like what the tournament, what it's like to be in that gym?
I mean, the environment is awesome because it's just like you said, it's everybody that loves girls basketball. South Jersey is coming to see some of the most talented teams that South Jersey has to offer. And it really is just genuine love of the game, and it's competitive. They do the 3-point contest. It's a really, when we had those weekends, it's a really fun time. And I think players are coming and watching that their team's not in it anymore. They just want to be a part of like seeing everything happening. It's a really cool experience.
Yeah, it was just fun. I mean, I remember that Bishop Eustace game, and I was just going, man, this Clearview team, this is their night. They're just not gonna miss. I mean, it was just like unbelievable. But the game itself was just, really, really close. It was competitive. It was fun to watch. I mean, the girls were just really dialed in. The fans were just amazing. In that gym, I think you almost like lose your hearing for a while after you leave the place because, I don't know if you've ever played against Eastern, but we played against them, and it's so loud in there, like you can't even hear your own players talk to each other. I mean, it's just amazing. So for you girls to really perform well and to make it to the finals, I mean, that's just fantastic. I mean, you went the farthest you've ever gone, which is amazing. And then at the finals too, I thought the game was great.
It was a tough game. I think, that atmosphere was even more intense,
Yeah.
and I think it was a lot for our team being as young as we were, and I also think, unfortunately, when things weren't going as the same exact way that they did with the Bishop Eustace game, that it was like, oh, well, I missed my shot this time, and just not having the experience to move past that and find a different way to make it work. But I think it was a great experience for the girls, learning experience. And I think that's super important to learn from it.
So do you think that'll help your team going forward, for having those girls be in that situation where it was very high energy, high intensity? There's so many things that are going on. I mean, the competition was really good. The game itself, again, was a great game. I mean, do you think that's going to prepare them later down the road as they become, juniors and seniors?
Yeah, those experiences are always helpful learning experiences, win or lose. It's just good to get yourself in a competitive atmosphere and, react to the situation. And I think until you're in those situations, you're not sure how you're going to react. You might plan and say, when there's this much time on the clock and we're down this amount, we're going to run this play or whatever the situation, but until you're actually there with the heightened emotions and feelings and adrenaline, it's different. It's hard to simulate that at a practice or sometimes even in regular season games.
Yeah, definitely. So last year, how many seniors did you graduate from last year's team?
So we graduated 3. We had 3: Bella Steidel, Olivia Marquet, our point guard, and Jackie Wardrop.
Okay. So now you transition to this year. I mean, obviously you said that you're a young team. So if you're graduating 3 seniors, as a young team, I think you're going to have to try to help them like grow and develop, I guess, quickly, just so that they're able to compete. This year's been a challenge, and we talked about this before the podcast. Like there was no practice time. So why don't you talk about, or even time to prepare? What was it like to prepare for the season, and how were you able to prepare for the season, with all the uncertainty?
Yeah. I mean, even the off season was tough this year. We didn't have our summer leagues, we were able to get into a fall league, which was great. But it was definitely different. We didn't have our practices in the summer like we normally would. We had to, think on the fly and do something different. We did a summer challenge where we grouped the girls in groups of like 3, and they worked together, and they could, they earned points if they ran a mile, or if they did a certain basketball workout, or, there was just different things to get them motivated, and they were checking in with each other, motivating each other. So that was our preseason, was doing, something totally different. It was tough being hands off, and just kind of hoping everybody was doing what they needed to do. But I think the girls did a great job. They seemed excited about it. And the fall league was great. It was just a nice opportunity for the girls to get back on the court before, like, we really got back on the court for the regular season. And then once we got into the regular season, this season just flew by. I mean, it was fun in the sense that sometimes basketball season feels a little long. You go through lulls where it just feels like, all right, how many practices do we need? And it was fun. It was like practice game, and I felt like it just was motivating for them, all right, that didn't work out. Let's move on to the next thing, like learn from that and move on. And I think I had a lot of fun this year. I feel like I know I missed the girls. I missed the team atmosphere, like having everybody together. And I think they felt the same way. So we just really tried to enjoy every second that we had. That was one of our thoughts was, you don't know when the last practice or game could be. If we had a COVID issue, and had to quarantine, like we wanted to take advantage of every second that we had on the court. So we had that mentality of get better every day. What are you doing today to improve? And I think that strategy worked for us. It was, like I said, we were young. So this was about coming together as a team again, another season with a young team. We had, we only had we have one senior this year. She got hurt early. She didn't play too much because of her injury. And then we had a junior starter, and then sophomores and freshmen. So as our starting lineup. So again, it was meshing together and kids taking on roles that they hadn't taken on previously. Emma Steidel had to step up as like a point guard for us and, do a lot of the control and like managing of things on the court. And she did a great job with that. I think she really embraces the leadership role. She does a great job talking with the girls and just keeping us organized on the court. She was a captain for us this year. Sophia Lutz was our junior this year. She's a captain for us also. And I think, it was a different year, but I really, really did enjoy this year. We have a great group of girls.
So how do you feel about, what are your thoughts about the live stream? Do you think that they, helped add, an element to the game, or did parents give you feedback on that, or what do you think?
I mean, I didn't really get too much feedback. I know they were asking for the links anytime we had a game. So, I think it was great that we were able to, just as a basketball community, come together and work that out, and have it so that the parents didn't have to miss out. And I enjoyed it too, because, I would be like, oh, I got to watch the Cherokee Paul 6 game, and I could just pull it up on my TV on YouTube and watch. And it just was, to me, it was a great way to share basketball, and get it out there. Anybody who wanted to see it could see it. And I think, that took some coaches letting go. Sometimes coaches don't want to share all their game films or things like that. And I think we all just knew this was going to be a different year, and we were just happy to be playing. So, sharing game film wasn't a big deal anymore. It was, let's play, let's let the parents see their kids play. And I think it added to the season. I think it was great to be able to see anyone play anytime.
Yeah, definitely. So do you feel that the atmosphere was different in the gyms now? Because, for, I would say maybe half of the season or maybe a little bit more, there was no fans.
Yeah.
So, I mean, here you are in your home games and you're looking around and it's empty and it's quiet, Do you feel that there was like a difference, and did you like it or you didn't like it?
It definitely was different. We did have about 90 fan cutouts in our stands that we had. And then we also, our school has cheerleaders for basketball, which was great that was able to still happen and make it so that it's not just silent in the gym. But it certainly did change things, sometimes it was tough because when you know, like we're trying to be the cheer, like being loud on the bench, it made it that much more important to be involved while you're on the bench. And then but I do think at the same time, I think the girls were fully focused on the game. You know, there wasn't, they weren't worried about what was their parent thinking about a certain play or whatever. They just were focused on the game. So, but I do miss the fans being in the stands. You know, I think it's just a nice atmosphere. When we went to games where, you know, later in the season, they switched it to where a lot of schools, it was mostly just the home team would have fans, you know, based on numbers. And that made it a little trickier, you know, playing Gloucester Catholic, for instance. Our freshman Anna was like, yeah, it was like we were playing against the 5 on the court and everybody else in the gym, you know. That's just like a small gym, very loud. So it was an added, you know, when you're at these games as an away team, it was an added challenge. But again, I think it's good. It's good for the kids to get challenged in different ways. I think if anything, this season showed them that they can overcome a lot of things, and that if we work together, we can get through it and we can make things happen. You know, like it was a fun season.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. I mean, I think too that, you know, you said, you know, making the best of every game. And I think every game kind of had a special meaning to it because you never, like you said, you don't know if that would be your last game or if you'd be shut down with COVID and things like that. And I think that with the fans, you know, maybe it was nicer for the girls because, you know, sometimes it's like all you do is you hear the people in the stands and it's like, you know, we got to get to a point where the girls could just play, you know, and fans should be allowed. I love having the fans there. But when the fans start interacting with the referee or yelling at the players, you know, I think that's going to negatively hurt your team. And I think in the long run, you know, us parents have to learn how to be better and, you know, try to do things. Like, honestly, I might have been that parent, you know, a couple years ago. And that's why I started videotaping my daughter and taking pictures because I didn't want to be on the camera yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
And also I realized too, like, when I did yell and scream, it wouldn't help. You know, my daughter would either ignore me, she'd be mad at me after the game, or she'd, you know, maybe it would affect her negatively. So I figure, you know what, let me just, you know, I know it's hard, but let me just bite my tongue and let me, you know, I guess we just want the best for our kids. And I think the fans just get carried away. So
Absolutely. I mean, the parents obviously want the best and they care so much about what's happening for their kid. If they feel like the ref is jipping them out in some way or, you know, they want to fix it for them. So I totally get it. Like, I understand why it happens. And it's just a part of the game. Honestly, it's just a part of the game, you know?
So my question to you is, you know, do you have like a special like game or a game that really stood out for you that kind of defines your season this year?
So I think a game that stands out to me, like I said earlier, is that we pride ourselves on our defense. And most of the time that's man-to-man. We like to play tough, man-to-man, help defense. But when we played Kingsway for the first time at home, you know, they have an inside player that was just tough to handle in man-to-man. And we did some man-to-man, and then we threw in some zone, which is not, in my past years, I really have not played zone much at all. I like the man-to-man. I like, you know, working together within the man-to-man. So zone I'm starting to come out and like experiment a little bit with that. And it worked really well for us. And I think it gave us some confidence. We won the game. It gave us some confidence that we can do different defenses. We can do a trapping zone. We can do a 3-2. We can just try different things, press, you know, man-to-man press, zone press. And I think after that game, we started to experiment a little more and, you know, throw different things at opponents to try to throw them off. You know, that coach calls a timeout to draw something up to address the man-to-man press. Well, now we're going to switch to a zone press, you know, like just trying to keep teams on their toes defensively. And maybe we get a couple turnovers out of that, you know, just the switching and being aggressive. So I think that Kingsway game was a big one for us.
So my question to you is, this year, Tri-County had a playoff. Do they typically have a playoff like this?
We don't usually, we just, whoever had the best record in the conference or in your division was your division champion. And then we've never had where all 4 divisions play against each other.
So what did you think about the new format? Is it something that you'd like to see, continue going forward now that they've done it?
It was fun. Like, I'm glad we had some type of like a playoff experience, and they still made it work where if you lost, you still got your 15 games, which was nice, so I did like that we had something to like play for, we got to play different teams. We got to play Glassboro, which was awesome, to just see somebody different, within our conference. But then we also had within our brackets, we had Timber Creek and Kingsway, who we played twice, so in a 15-game season, 3 times playing one of the same team, it just would have been nice for some variety. But I was just super appreciative to have the 15 games, first of all, and then to be able to have something to play for as a team. That was neat. So
did you get your full 15?
We did. Yep. So
you run into any COVID issues at all with any other teams, or you have to shut down or lose games?
So Timber Creek, we were supposed to play early, and I think they had quarantine happen early, and we ended up playing them like back-to-back Saturdays when we rescheduled. But that was it. I mean, everything else really kind of went as planned. That was one of our goals for the season. That was my assistant coach. She was like, we walked in the beginning of the season, what are your goals for, the team, the coaches, everybody? And she said to get through this without having any like COVID issues. And we did. We were vigilant, like constant, sanitize, wash down the balls, whatever. Like we were trying to be as careful as possible. Wear the mask as much as you possibly can at practice. And we made it through healthy from COVID.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, that was one of the things that we talked about. We're so happy that, we were able to make it through. I mean, if you're looking at the last week of games, I mean, there was, a lot of teams in the Cape Atlantic, they got shut down for COVID.
Yeah.
And a lot of them didn't know if they were ever going to play again. So, it was a lot of scrambling and, trying to get games at the last minute and trying to figure out, all right, how can we get them in? I mean, some of them didn't even get 12 games. Some of them got like 10 games. So I think at this point, it's just a matter of being, happy and thankful for what you got. And, just realize that, hey, this is a new experience for us. Let's just get through the season and let's hope for something that's closer to normal next year, which is what I'm looking forward to. So thinking about your team this year, what are some keys to success, for the game? So like if you're preparing at the beginning of the season, you're sitting down with your coaches, you're saying, okay, in order for us to be competitive in games, in order for us to be successful, in order for us to have an opportunity to win, we need to do X, Y, and Z. So what are some things that you would consider are important for your team for success?
I would say defense, number one, is a key for us. It's just something about it. Like it's just, you have to work hard for it, and I like that about it. I want us to be gritty and grind through tough games and be aggressive defensively. So to me, defending, and we're not big. We're pretty small for a team. So boxing out and rebounding has always been a key for us, and getting out in transition. And then also what we learned throughout the season is energy was a huge thing for us. Towards the end of the season, we started a lot of our games by pressing because it got the energy into the girls and like woke them up. We're ready. Here we are, and they got a taste of the aggressiveness and benefits of it. And that was a key for us this year, was keeping the energy up, which relates also to the gym and the fans and all of that. Like you were saying, like, having that energy, creating that energy rather than having fans cheering for it,
Yeah, definitely. I think that's important, is creating your own energy and then, working together. So what do you think about your team going forward now that you have, this season, under your belt? How well prepared do you think they're going to be moving forward into their, I guess, upperclassmen years?
Yeah, it almost feels like this season was like a warm up, for next season. So I feel like we've we've gotten some of the experience that we've needed. Some girls learned new roles, stepped into new roles, and we had to learn new roles. That was something that we talked about a lot this year, is that, you know, everybody has a role on the team and everybody's role is super important. Anna's not going to make a 3-point shot if she doesn't get a good pass from a teammate, or, Sophia's not going to finish under the basket for a layup if she doesn't get the pass that she needs and the ball fake ahead of time, or, just getting the girls to understand that every role on the team is important, whether you are the shooter, the scorer, the passer, the screener, the girl that just plays defense on everybody's best player. That was Sophia for us. All right, so if you got to play the guard over here. Oh, so if now you're going to play a post player, whatever, just having everybody know a role and how they best contribute to the team.
So, thinking about your season, would you say that it was a success? And if you did, what are you most proud of this year?
I would say it was a success. I feel like we came together as a team. We were 11-4. And I feel like just getting through it healthy. I feel like this year our team, we have a smart team. Like, I feel like I was able to throw a lot at them in a short amount of time. Like I was saying earlier, we played more variety of defenses than we've ever played. We had a ton of different plays that we threw in to just try to combat different situations we were coming up against. And the girls, they're smart, they're focused. If I tell them you need to watch Huddle and watch whatever game that we just played or we're getting ready to play, I put some clips together, make sure you watch them. The next day at practice, these girls would be like, oh yeah, this girl likes to turn left every time, or this girl likes, they worked hard for it. They benefited from prepping for games. And I think that's something for them to learn. You don't prep like that for, at least I didn't growing up, until high school. And as a coach, I put a lot of time into scouting other teams that we're going to play and trying to come up with the best plan that we can to be successful against them. And I feel like the girls buy into it and put the work in too. They know that it's going to help them be successful against that team.
Definitely. So we're getting ready to get to the end of the podcast. And typically this is a time where I would kind of, ask coaches, what they thought about, how could we, grow the game and get more fans out there and get more recognition as a community, because, it just seems like, in my opinion, the North teams, the short teams, they're in really competitive conferences. The newspapers that write that are big time are up in that area. So they're constantly getting recognition, where I feel sometimes, South Jersey doesn't get the recognition it deserves. If you look at the top 10 or top 20, for NJ.com, there was at one point, the most was 3 teams. It was Cherokee, Paul VI, and Haddonfield made it at one point. And I think Middle Township scooted in at the end. But 3 teams out of 20. So we're not really that well represented. What can we do to get some more exposure?
Well, I think you're doing a great job. I want to thank you for that. I think what you're doing is awesome. And I think, putting things out there just like this, like your podcasts, I think social media can play a huge role. So sharing out your podcasts, Mike Hallahan with the SJIBT does an awesome job with his top 20 teams, coach of the week, players of the week. I just think celebrating each other is important. I think like coming together and just any successes that we have in South Jersey, I think it's great. And you see it, like you see people, a coach post something and then another coach like say, congrats, or that's awesome. I think we need to celebrate each other. And I think social media is a good way to do it. We've been having the same conversations at Clearview. How do we get more fans to come to the girls' games? It always seems like the boys' games are packed. How do we get them to the girls' games? So just brainstorming ideas. Obviously things changed this year with COVID, but we had the idea of doing girl boy double headers, just to get people to maybe they even see just half of the girls game and they're like, oh, wow, like they're pretty good. Like, but we do like a pioneer of the game, and share that out on social media to just celebrate the girls and what they're doing. And then, they get excited about it and they share it out, and their family members and AAU coaches or whatever, see it too. So I think that's a big part.
So, you mentioned that one of your girlfriends, your teammates from back in the day, used to have a scrapbook.
Mm-hmm.
And I distinctly remember that's how anybody did anything back, when I was a kid, is you'd go to the newspaper and you'd, clip out the articles, and it was like you'd have to read about it. And now in the age of social media, everything's digital.
Yeah.
How do we get back to, getting more stuff that's tangible, that's in print, for our girls? Because I think that's something that's cool. Like, seeing it online is one thing, but actually holding in your hands and reading about it is just a different experience. I mean, do you agree?
I definitely agree. I mean, I know from when I was in high school, I still have like framed articles from when I played, my mom got it framed for me, and just, it is neat to see your name or your face in the newspaper. So I agree. I mean, the digital aspect of it makes it easier to share. But it is pretty cool to have the print version of it, in your hands, like you said.
Well, you mentioned social media. So what do you have, a Twitter account for your team? And do you have anything else?
We do Twitter and Instagram. I think the Instagram is more for the kids. I feel like it gets the students, at Clearview are more apt to be on the Instagram. So I feel like that was one of our goals this year, to reach out to those kids, to get them to come to games in the future and see how their friends are doing. And, it's fun to see the interactions with the girls and their friends and family. But Twitter is also huge. I think Twitter is important for the girls who want to move on and play in college. It seems to be a way for college coaches to get in contact with them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we utilize Twitter. We also utilize Facebook, but Instagram is something I think that, you're hitting on, that I think everybody should, be posting. If you're posting one place, you might as well just post all three, and then,
that's
post lots of pictures, post lots of information. And it's all about the kids. It's all about celebrating, their accomplishments and achievements, which is just fantastic. So my last question to you is, how are you connecting with the youth of your town? Because that's where your talent pool is coming from. So what are some things that you do with the rec kids or travel kids that are, that are going to potentially go to Clearview?
So that's always been a goal for me when I've gotten to Clearview is, as a teacher, I know some of the kids in the area. I teach 5th grade in Harrison Township. So some of the kids that I'm coaching now, I saw come through our school. And it's a reminder to me to stay focused on the youth too, the youth leagues. So we, in a typical non-COVID year, we would do youth clinics during the season where, we'll invite kids to come for the last hour of practice. And we'll run through different drills and things with them free of charge, like just to get the kids there involved. And it really has been awesome to see, because the kids love the high school players. Like, they look up to them so much. I don't know if you've noticed, but Bella and Emma Steidel both always have braids in their hair when they play. And we had a clinic last year, and it happened to be a girl that I had in class. Her mom sent me a picture of her daughter's team, and they all had their hair braided just like Bella and Emma did. So like, I just feel like that building those relationships. And I can remember when I was a kid, going to a high school game and just being in awe of these girls. And I think it's great to give them that opportunity, so we do the clinics. In the summer, we usually have a summer camp. So I just think giving them the opportunity to connect with the high school players is motivation, and like gives them I want to play with like her. I want to be able to do this move like she does, and the high school kids love it too. The players just love the fact that they can share information with the kids and teach them something new.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's fun.
fantastic. You know, I think connecting with the community is just something that's important. I know every program does it, but I think even it's more important now than ever, just because, you know, I feel like the kids lost, meaning the younger kids, excuse me, they lost a year or two of development. You know, there's some kids that my younger daughter has played with, and they only play during the basketball season.
Right.
So if they didn't play this year, the next time they're going to, you know, theoretically touch a basketball is going to be next year. So it's going to be 2 years. So you really have that 1 year of they didn't really grow or develop, or maybe their skills kind of came down. So I think that's important, you know, now to inspire these kids, give them more opportunities, connect with them with these clinics. I mean, obviously with COVID now it's tough, but with, you know, outdoor courts and with some creativity, you know, maybe you will be able to do that more. And I think that the schools that are more successful in doing that are going to help their program in the long run. You're going to see that the next 2, 3, 4 years. The towns that they're not able to connect, or there's disconnect, I think it's going to be a challenge, because they're going to be, you know, hurting for talent, or they're going to have to just teach the kids on the fly as kids come up into high school. So I just want to say congratulations. You know, you had a great year. You know, a lot of success. I mean, it's tough to have a young team. It's tough to, like, even just like you said, play the 15 games, but you made it. I think you had a great experience with your team, and I think everybody should be, you know, just happy and excited and looking forward to next year. So thank you so much.
Yes, we definitely are. Thank you so much for doing everything that you are for South Jersey girls basketball too, and for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Talk to you soon. Okay. Take care.
All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.